The alien princess shunned humans, until one soldier earned her trust. Towering crystal spires reflected the sunlight in dazzling patterns, and floating gardens hovered gently above the ground, supported by mysterious anti-gravity fields. Rivers of liquid light ran between the cities, casting a soft glow over streets where aliens of every shape and color moved with grace and purpose. It was a world of beauty, of sophistication, and of order. But beneath its calm surface, Zyphera hid old scars. Princess Lysera, heir to the Zypheran throne, walked along the grand balcony of the royal palace. Her long, silver-blue hair flowed in the wind, and her emerald eyes surveyed the city below. She had been taught from birth to protect her people, to think like a ruler, and to distrust humans. For centuries, the Zypherans had suffered from human invasions and reckless explorations. While most humans came in peace now, history had left a bitter taste. Lysera had no intention of welcoming them. "Your Highness," said her advisor, a tall alien with translucent skin and eyes like molten gold, "the humans will arrive today. Their fleet has entered orbit." Lysera's eyes narrowed. "I see no reason to meet them," she said. Her voice was calm, almost cold. "They have caused enough trouble in our past. My people do not need more distractions." The advisor bowed slightly. "It is true, Princess, but the Council insists on an audience. They hope to secure an alliance for the sake of Zyphera's security." Lysera let out a quiet sigh. Security. Peace. She understood the logic, but she also remembered the stories of fire and destruction, of cities burned and lands pillaged. She had been too young to witness them, but the memories were carried by her elders, etched into the palace walls and the hearts of her people. On the other side of the atmosphere, the human fleet shimmered against the violet sky. Ships of various sizes glided smoothly, sleek and metallic, a contrast to the organic beauty of Zyphera. On the flagship, the Horizon, Captain Marcus Kane prepared his team for landing. Marcus was a human soldier, tall and broad-shouldered, with sharp brown eyes that reflected both determination and kindness. He had faced many battles in his career, but this mission was different. This was not about combat, it was about trust. "Captain Kane," said Lieutenant Harris, standing at attention, "Zyphera's atmosphere is stable for descent. Are we ready to land?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, remember we are guests. Show respect. No sudden moves. Keep your weapons in check. Our goal is diplomacy, not conflict." Harris glanced at him, a mixture of excitement and nervousness in his eyes. "Understood, sir." As the human ships descended toward the landing platform, they could see the alien palace in all its grandeur. It rose like a mountain of light and crystal, surrounded by gardens that floated midair. The humans marveled, some whispering in awe. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. Humans had explored many worlds, but few were as breathtaking as Zyphera, yet he kept his focus. Beauty was one thing, winning the trust of its people was another. On the landing platform, a group of Zypheran guards waited. Their uniforms were elegant, colored in deep blue and silver, and they carried energy blades that glowed faintly. Marcus and his team disembarked, their boots clicking softly against the polished crystal surface. The aliens' eyes studied the humans cautiously, their posture rigid, showing respect yet signaling warning. Lysera observed from her balcony. She had not yet come down to meet them. Humans, she reminded herself, were unpredictable. They might smile one moment and attack the next. History had taught her caution. And yet, something about the tall man at the front, the one she presumed was their leader, made her pause. He moved not with arrogance, but with careful attention to those around him. His eyes were calm, steady, not scanning for weaknesses, but for understanding. The humans bowed slightly, following the protocol they had been taught. Marcus stepped forward. "Princess Lysera," he said, his voice clear and respectful, "we come in peace. We wish only to build understanding and friendship between our peoples." Lysera's gaze did not soften. "Friendship," she said, the word bitter on her tongue. "Humans do not know what that means. You bring war, chaos, and destruction. Why should I trust you now?" Marcus held her gaze unshaken. "Because the past does not define the future. We can learn from each other. We can protect each other. We can prove ourselves." A murmur ran through the Zypheran council present on the platform. Lysera's advisors whispered to one another, but Lysera held up a hand. She would not be swayed by words alone. Humans would have to show her, not tell her. "Very well," she said finally, her tone sharp. "You may remain on Zyphera, but you will follow strict rules. One misstep and you will leave in pieces." Marcus inclined his head. Understood, Princess. We will follow your rules. The first days of the humans' visit were tense. Marcus's team was assigned a temporary residence within the palace grounds, where they could observe Zypheran life without intruding. The aliens were polite but distant. Meals were served on floating plates, with flavors and textures the humans had never experienced. Yet every gesture, every smile, seemed measured, careful. Marcus noticed the subtle hostility in the air, the way some aliens would step back slightly when a human approached. One evening, while Marcus walked along a terrace overlooking a luminous lake, he heard a soft sound, laughter. It was different from the rigid, formal tones he had grown used to on Zyphera. Curious, he followed it through a garden of floating lilies and crystal trees. Hidden behind a cluster of tall plants, he saw Lysera herself speaking quietly with children of the palace. She seemed human in that moment, relaxed, even joyful. Marcus stepped lightly on a crystal path. The sound of his boots alerted Lysera. She turned sharply, her expression hardening instantly. "You should not be here," she said, her voice low but commanding. "I apologize, Princess," Marcus said calmly, holding his hands open to show no threat. "I did not mean to intrude. I was curious. I wanted to understand your world." Lysera studied him for a moment, her eyes narrowing. "Humans are always curious. Sometimes it leads to knowledge. Sometimes it leads to disaster." Marcus smiled faintly. "I hope this curiosity can lead to something good, not disaster." For a brief moment, Lysera considered him. There was honesty in his tone. She had seen many humans in her lifetime, and most spoke with hidden agendas. But this one, he was different. Still, she would not let herself trust him yet. "Return to your quarters," she said finally. "And remember, do not overstep. The walls of the palace are not meant for humans to wander freely." Marcus inclined his head, retreating slowly. As he left, he glanced back and caught her looking at him just for a heartbeat. That small acknowledgement was enough to spark a seed of curiosity in both of them. A dangerous, fragile thing that could grow into understanding or be crushed by the weight of centuries-old distrust. Days turned into a week, and Marcus began observing Zypheran life more closely. He noticed the subtle ways they communicated, the gestures, the pauses, the unspoken rules of interaction. He noticed how Lysera moved, always measured, always in control, yet sometimes, just sometimes, letting her guard slip when alone. One morning, a group of Zypheran children wandered too close to a high balcony edge. Marcus saw them before the guards did. With quick reflexes, he dashed forward, catching a small child who had tripped. Lysera, observing from a nearby window, felt a jolt in her chest. The human had acted instinctively, without hesitation, without concern for protocol or reputation. He had simply saved life. Her fingers clenched around the window ledge. Could it be possible that humans could be heroes? Could they be trusted? She shook her head sharply. No. She could not think like that. Not yet. But even as she turned away, she knew something had shifted. The cold barrier she had built around herself and her people had cracks now. And at the center of those cracks stood a human soldier, calm, honorable, and unlike any she had ever known. And somewhere deep down, Lysera wondered if perhaps, just perhaps, trust could be earned. The sun rose over Zyphera, casting long shadows across the floating gardens and crystal spires. Birds with luminous feathers glided between the towers, their songs mingling with the soft hum of the city's energy fields. Humans were still settling into their temporary quarters, adjusting to a world unlike any they had ever known. Captain Marcus Kane moved carefully through the palace gardens. His eyes took in every detail: the transparent walkways, the luminous flowers that changed color with the wind, and the delicate balance of Zypheran engineering. For a soldier used to destruction and chaos, Zyphera was a place of calm precision. Yet he knew that beauty did not mean safety. Lysera observed him from a distance, hidden behind a large crystal tree. She was cautious, as always, but curiosity tugged at her. The human soldier moved differently than she expected. He did not stare, he did not act arrogantly, and he certainly did not act like a conqueror. He observed, he learned, he respected. The humans were scheduled to tour part of the city under strict supervision. But Marcus, always careful, had a habit of walking ahead quietly to understand the environment before bringing the team along. Today, that habit would lead to an encounter that neither he nor Lysera could forget. As he explored a narrow bridge connecting two floating gardens, a sudden tremor shook the walkway. Marcus froze, sensing danger. A crystal tile beneath his foot cracked, sending shards scattering. Before he could react, he heard a scream, a high, terrified sound. He ran toward the noise, and around the corner he saw a group of Xiferan children trapped on a section of the bridge that had begun to crumble. Panic flashed in their eyes. Some were frozen in fear, others clung to the railing for dear life. The energy barriers of the bridge were failing, and if the tiles gave way completely, the children would fall into the glowing river of liquid light far below. Without hesitation, Marcus leaped forward. He grabbed the nearest child, lifting them to safety. Another child slipped, and Marcus caught them with one arm, his feet barely finding solid ground. He moved swiftly, calmly, guiding the frightened group to a stable section of the bridge. By the time the guards arrived, the children were safe, and Marcus stood panting, a few shards of crystal stuck to his boots. Lysera had watched from a distance, her heart racing. She had always believed humans were reckless, destructive, and unpredictable. Yet this human, this one soldier, had acted with bravery, precision, and care. When the guards finally reached him, they bowed, showing respect. "Captain Kane," one of them said, "you have saved lives. The princess will wish to speak with you." Lysera approached slowly, her flowing robes brushing the crystal tiles. Her eyes studied Marcus carefully. "You could have been hurt," she said, her voice calm but carrying a trace of surprise. "Why did you risk yourself?" Marcus wiped his hands on his pants and looked her in the eye. "Because they are children," he said simply. "In any world, they deserve protection. No one should be harmed when it can be prevented." Lysera's eyes softened for the briefest moment. She had grown up believing humans acted only for themselves, that mercy was rare, and that courage often came with arrogance. But here was a man who risked himself without hesitation, not for glory, not for power, but because it was the right thing to do. "You are different," she said after a pause. "Most humans I have met are selfish or foolish. You act with honor." Marcus shook his head. "Not all humans are the same. We are capable of both good and bad, just like your people, but I choose to do what is right." For a moment, Lysera considered letting him into her confidence to speak more openly, but the weight of centuries of distrust pressed down on her. She turned abruptly. "Return to your quarters," she said. "You have done enough for today, and remember the rules still apply." Marcus inclined his head, stepping back. Yet as he moved, he noticed Lysera glancing at him once more. It was subtle, but it was enough to make him think she was not entirely closed to understanding humans. Over the next few days, Marcus continued his careful exploration of Xiphera. He observed how the citizens moved through their world, how they communicated with gestures, light, and sound, and how technology and nature coexisted seamlessly. He took notes not for any report, but to understand a culture so different from his own. Lysera, meanwhile, found herself drawn to his presence. She kept a careful distance, but she began to observe him secretly, noting his reactions to Xipheran life. She saw how he helped a child pick up a fallen flower, how he politely declined food he could not recognize, and how he spoke to her guards with respect rather than fear. One evening, the princess found herself walking alone in the palace gardens. She needed the quiet, a break from the constant pressures of rulership. To her surprise, Marcus was there examining a floating crystal fountain with fascination. "You enjoy this world?" she asked, her voice cautious. Marcus turned, surprised but not alarmed. "I do," he said. "It is unlike anything I've ever seen. The balance between nature and technology is remarkable. It is beautiful." Lysera raised an eyebrow. "Beauty is dangerous," she said. "It can make you forget what is important. Humans are often blinded by beauty." Marcus smiled faintly. "Perhaps, but I have learned to notice the details that matter. Beauty can also teach patience, understanding, and care. That is important too." The princess considered this. She had spent much of her life learning to rule, to think strategically, to protect her people. She had rarely considered that observation and care could be as powerful as strategy and strength. Suddenly, a soft cry echoed through the garden. Lysera and Marcus turned to see a small child trapped on the edge of a floating platform, frightened and unable to move. Without thinking, Marcus rushed forward again. This time, Lysera followed instinctively. Together, they guided the child to safety. For Lysera, this was a revelation. The human did not act out of recklessness or heroism for show. He acted instinctively to protect others, including her people. She felt a flicker of admiration she had never allowed herself before. After the child was safe, Lysera spoke quietly, almost to herself. Perhaps humans are capable of more than I believed. Marcus heard her and looked at her with gentle curiosity. We all have the capacity to change, Princess. Perhaps it is not about who we are, but what we choose to do. Her heart skipped a beat at his words. They were simple, yet profound. She had been taught to distrust, to doubt, and to guard her heart against humans. But this human, this one soldier, was different. He made her question the lessons she had carried all her life. The following days saw a subtle change in Lysera. She began allowing Marcus to accompany her on short walks, though always under strict supervision. Their conversations were careful, polite, and formal at first. Marcus asked questions about Xiferan history, culture, and technology. Lysera answered, testing his reactions. He listened, absorbed, and responded with thoughtfulness. One afternoon, a group of humans was exploring the floating gardens when an unexpected storm swept across the city. The wind picked up, strong enough to threaten the fragile walkways. Marcus immediately sprang into action, guiding the humans to safety, checking the stability of every path, and ensuring no one panicked. Lysera watched from a distance, amazed at his calm efficiency. "You handled danger well," she said, approaching him once the storm passed. "Most humans would have panicked," Marcus shrugged. "Training helps, but I try to focus on what matters. Panic doesn't help anyone." Lysera studied him in silence. She saw in him not just a soldier, but a protector, a thinker, and perhaps someone she could trust. Her prejudice against humans did not disappear, but it wavered. For the first time, she felt that trust could be earned, not given. That evening, as the sun set and bathed the city in violet and gold, Lysera found herself thinking about the human soldier. His presence was a challenge to everything she had believed about humans, and yet it was a challenge she could not ignore. In the quiet of her chambers, she whispered to herself, "Perhaps not all humans are the same. Perhaps one can make a difference." Far away in his quarters, Marcus wrote in his journal, "Princess Lysera is cautious, distrustful, but curious. I sense she is watching, learning, testing. Trust is fragile here, but I will do my best to earn it. This world, this people, they deserve our respect. And I will prove that humans can be worthy allies." The seeds of understanding had been planted. The walls of prejudice had begun to crack. And though neither Lysera nor Marcus fully realized it, the bond that would change the future of Xiphera, and perhaps the galaxy, had quietly begun to grow. The morning on Xiphera was unlike any other. Mist rose from the floating lakes, shimmering in the light of the twin suns. The city sparkled, reflecting the harmony of nature and technology. Captain Marcus Kane walked carefully along the crystal streets, observing the Xipherans around him. Today, he was allowed a rare opportunity to accompany Princess Lysera outside the palace walls and explore parts of the city few humans had ever seen. Lysera led the way, moving with her usual grace. Her eyes scanned the surroundings constantly, noting the subtle movements of guards, citizens, and floating devices. She had allowed Marcus to join her not because she trusted him completely, but because she wanted to understand how humans thought. And Marcus, he had earned her attention. "You must understand, Captain Kane," she said as they moved along a bridge of floating crystal. "Xiphera is fragile. The harmony you see is not natural. It has been built, maintained, and protected for thousands of years. Humans do not have this kind of patience. You destroy first, then think, I need to know you will respect this world." Marcus nodded. "I understand, Princess. I will not harm what I do not know. I will observe, learn, and follow your guidance. I promise." Lysera's eyes flicked toward him, studying his expression. She saw honesty there, and that alone made her hesitate. Perhaps humans were not all reckless after all. Their walk led them to the outskirts of the city, where the crystal structures gave way to natural landscapes. Here, floating forests hovered over glowing rivers, and giant trees with silver leaves swayed in the breeze. Birds with translucent wings darted between branches, and small animals with luminescent fur peered curiously at the newcomers. Marcus moved slowly, careful not to disturb anything. He was fascinated not just by the beauty, but by how everything in this ecosystem interacted perfectly. "Impressive," he said softly. "Your people have created more than a city. You have built a world where life and technology live together." Lysera nodded but did not speak. She watched him closely. Many humans might have been awestruck and careless. Marcus, he admired without touching, observed without interfering. That was rare. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden commotion. A small Xipheran village near the forest's edge was in chaos. Lights flashed, alarms rang, and the villagers ran in panic. Lysera's eyes narrowed. "Something is wrong," she said, moving quickly toward the village. Marcus followed, ready. As they approached, they saw the source of the panic. A collapsed bridge blocked the main path, and several villagers were trapped on the floating platforms. The village's energy fields were unstable, flickering with dangerous sparks. Lysera turned to Marcus. "Humans are not allowed to intervene in emergencies outside the city, but I will give you one chance. Help us and prove that humans can contribute to Zyphera's safety." Marcus did not hesitate. "Lead the way," he said calmly. Together, they worked to stabilize the area. Marcus used his training to organize the villagers, showing them where to stand safely and how to help each other. Lysera contributed her knowledge of Zypheran technology, guiding Marcus in using energy manipulators to reinforce the floating platforms. Slowly, carefully, the danger passed. The villagers were safe. When the last villager was secure, Lysera looked at Marcus. She could not hide her surprise. Humans were not supposed to understand Zypheran systems, let alone help stabilize them so efficiently. You are clever," she said. "More clever than I expected." Marcus smiled faintly. "We humans adapt, we learn from what we see. I had help from you, I followed your instructions." Lysera studied him in silence. His humility was almost as remarkable as his skill. She realized that humans, though different, could contribute in ways her people had never imagined. Perhaps there was more to them than history had taught her. In the days that followed, Marcus and Lysera explored deeper into the wilderness of Zyphera. They visited crystal caverns that hummed with energy, ancient ruins that held centuries of Zypheran history, and forests where light itself seemed alive. With every step, Marcus demonstrated human ingenuity. He solved mechanical puzzles the Zypherans had struggled with for decades, often in ways that Lysera found surprising. "You think differently," she said one afternoon as they rested by a glowing river. "Your mind is unusual. Humans do not follow the same logic we do. Sometimes it leads to mistakes, sometimes it leads to brilliance." Marcus shrugged, smiling. "We are taught to improvise, to use what we have. It's not always perfect, but it works. Maybe that's why we survive in the galaxy." Lysera considered this. Her people had long believed that their advanced technology and centuries of order made them superior. But Marcus showed her a new perspective. Humans could succeed not by controlling everything, but by adapting, observing, and taking risks with care. Their growing understanding was soon tested. A Zypheran scout approached them urgently, his energy staff glowing red. "Princess Lysera, Captain Kane, you must return. The city, there is a threat. A fleet of unknown ships has entered Zyphera's orbit. They are not friendly." Lysera's expression hardened. "Show me," she commanded. From a nearby cliff they could see the ships, dark, angular, and alien. They moved with purpose, cutting through Zyphera's defenses. Lysera felt a surge of anger. Her people had survived countless threats, but this fleet was new, unknown, and dangerous. She turned to Marcus. "Humans fight. You will stay close. Observe, assist, and follow instructions. The survival of my people may depend on this." Marcus nodded. "Understood, Princess. We will help however we can." As they returned to the city, Lysera explained the plan. The alien fleet would likely attack the outer defenses first, attempting to breach the city's energy fields. Marcus observed the Zypheran soldiers as they prepared. Their technology was advanced, their discipline unmatched, but there were gaps that a human mind could notice, small points where efficiency could be improved. He quietly suggested a few adjustments, which Lysera relayed to the generals. To her surprise, they listened. Humans had never been part of battle planning before. Marcus's ideas were simple, practical, and effective. The first skirmish began that night. Alien ships fired energy pulses at the city, attempting to disable its defenses. Zypheran soldiers moved with precision, but the humans contributed by monitoring weak points and communicating adjustments. Marcus coordinated small teams, bridging Zypheran technology and human tactics. Lysera watched from the command tower, her eyes on Marcus. She could hardly believe it. This human was not only brave, but capable of thinking in ways her people had not considered. Slowly, her long-held prejudice began to crumble. Perhaps humans were not just destructive outsiders. They could be allies, innovators, and protectors. The battle ended without major loss. The alien ships retreated, likely surprised by the coordination of Zypherans and humans together. Lysera turned to Marcus, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded slightly. "You have done well, Captain Kane. Today you have proven more than your words ever could." Marcus inclined his head. "Thank you, Princess, but we must remain ready. This may be only the beginning." Lysera remained silent for a moment, watching him. She realized that her feelings toward humans were changing, though she could not yet admit it fully. This one human, calm, clever, courageous, had earned a measure of her trust. That trust was fragile, but it existed. That evening, as the twin suns set behind the floating mountains, Lysera walked alone in the palace gardens. She reflected on the day's events. She had seen bravery, skill, and intelligence, not in her own people alone, but in a human. And perhaps that was a lesson she needed to learn. That greatness could come from unexpected places, and that cooperation, not isolation, could ensure Zyphera's future. Meanwhile, Marcus sat in his quarters, reviewing the day's events. He wrote in his journal, "Princess Lysera is beginning to see humans differently. She is cautious but observant. I hope our actions today have shown that humans can be trusted. This world, this people, they deserve respect and protection. And I will continue to earn their trust step by step." The night passed quietly, with the stars of Zyphera shining brighter than ever. Somewhere deep in the palace, Lysera slept fitfully, dreaming of floating gardens, luminous rivers, and a human soldier whose bravery and heart challenged everything she had believed. For the first time, she allowed herself a thought she had never considered before. Perhaps humans were not the enemy. Perhaps, with care and understanding, they could become something far more valuable, a bridge between worlds. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, the seeds of alliance were taking root. The sky above Zyphera darkened as the alien fleet returned, this time in full force. Unlike the previous skirmish, there was no warning, no subtle approach. Hundreds of dark ships filled the horizon, moving like a shadow against the twin suns. Their shapes were sharp and alien, their energy pulses glowing ominously. The city's defenders mobilized quickly, but even the disciplined Zypheran soldiers looked tense. Princess Lysera stood on the palace balcony, her eyes fixed on the approaching fleet. She had faced threats before, but this was different. This fleet had no known origin, no discernible motive beyond destruction. Her heart tightened, but she did not show it. Leadership demanded focus, strategy, and courage. Marcus Kane stood beside her, his expression calm but alert. "Princess, the fleet is large. Their formation suggests they will attack the outer defenses first. We need to coordinate quickly." Lysera nodded. "We will. But remember, Captain Kane, humans are not trained to fight on Zyphera. Follow instructions carefully." Marcus smiled faintly. "I know, but we can adapt. We always do." The city's defense systems came alive, energy shields rising to protect critical areas. Zypheran ships launched into the sky, their sleek forms reflecting the sun's light. Marcus moved among the human soldiers, organizing teams to assist in monitoring weak points in the city's defenses. He coordinated with Zypheran engineers, suggesting adjustments that could maximize efficiency and reduce energy loss. The first wave of alien ships struck with precision. Energy pulses slammed into the outer shields, sending shockwaves through the floating gardens. Marcus directed human teams to reinforce shields and reroute energy to critical points. Zypheran soldiers followed his guidance, impressed by his understanding of their systems. Princess Lysera watched closely. This human soldier, whom she had once viewed with caution, now commanded respect from her people. His calm efficiency, his quick thinking, and his ability to bridge two very different cultures were remarkable. The battle intensified. Alien ships broke through minor sections of the shield, attempting to land troops on the city's platforms. Marcus, Lysera, and a squad of Zypheran soldiers engaged in a coordinated response. Marcus led small human squads to strategic positions, using portable energy stabilizers to reinforce weakened sections of the city. Lysera fought alongside her people, directing troops and managing the city's energy flows. She noticed Marcus moving with the soldiers, not above them, but among them, calm, decisive, and inspiring. For the first time, she began to understand that humans could be more than unpredictable outsiders. They could be allies, capable of courage, insight, and leadership. A group of alien fighters broke through a weakened bridge leading to one of the floating gardens. Lysera prepared to defend the bridge when Marcus intercepted her. "Step back," he said calmly. "Let me handle this. I've studied their attack patterns." We can trap them here without risking the bridge collapsing. Lysera hesitated, but she trusted him. Marcus moved swiftly, coordinating human and Xipheran teams to create a temporary energy barrier that redirected the alien fighters into a controlled area. Using precision tactics, the intruders were neutralized without damaging the bridge. Lysera could not hide her surprise. Humans could indeed think differently, and their thinking was effective. The battle continued for hours. Alien ships adapted, changing strategies, but so did the defenders. Marcus anticipated their moves, suggesting tactics that combined human ingenuity and Xipheran technology. He guided teams to reinforce weak points, manage energy flows, and coordinate counterattacks. During a lull in the fighting, Lysera approached him. "You are remarkable," she said quietly, almost to herself. "Your courage, your mind, you have saved countless lives today." Marcus shook his head. "I only do what is necessary. The real credit goes to your soldiers and engineers. We are stronger together than apart." Lysera studied him, realizing that her feelings toward humans were shifting. She had long believed they were reckless, selfish, and destructive. But here was a human who had risked his life, thought clearly under pressure, and earned the respect of her people. Perhaps humans could be trusted if they proved themselves. The alien fleet launched a final, concentrated strike on the city's central power core. The pulse of energy threatened to disable all of Xyphera's defenses. Lysera and Marcus coordinated the response, working side by side. Marcus directed human squads to protect key energy nodes while Xipheran soldiers reinforced structural shields. The final moments were tense. Energy pulses slammed into the city, shaking platforms and throwing debris into the air. Marcus moved quickly, his decisions precise, guiding humans and Xipherans alike. With careful coordination, the power core remained intact, and the city's defenses held. The alien fleet, unable to breach the city, retreated into space. Xyphera had survived, and the cost of victory was minimal thanks to the combined efforts of humans and Xipherans. Lysera stood on the balcony, breathing heavily, her eyes scanning the city below. She could hardly believe what had happened. Humans, long regarded as outsiders and dangers, had proven themselves invaluable. And the one human who had earned her attention, Marcus Kane, had been at the heart of it all. She turned to him, her expression unreadable but her eyes softening. "Captain Kane, you have done more than I could have imagined. Today you have shown my people the value of humans, and you have earned my trust." Marcus bowed slightly, a respectful smile on his face. "Thank you, Princess. I am honored, but we must remain vigilant. This may not be the last threat." Lysera nodded. She had learned an important lesson today. Trust could be earned through courage, skill, and integrity. Humans were not the enemies she had been taught to fear. They could be allies, capable of great good. In the aftermath of the battle, the city began to recover. Repairs were made to damaged platforms, energy flows were stabilized, and citizens returned to their daily lives. Marcus worked alongside Xipheran engineers, helping to optimize systems and improve defenses. Lysera observed quietly, noticing how her people respected him, listened to him, and even began to admire him. That evening, the palace held a small ceremony to honor the defenders. Lysera stepped forward to address the crowd, her voice strong and clear. "Today, we faced a threat unlike any before. We survived because we worked together, Xipherans and humans. Today, we have learned that courage, loyalty, and understanding know no species. Let this day mark the beginning of a new alliance, one that will protect our world and our future." The crowd erupted in applause, humans and Xipherans alike recognizing the truth of her words. Marcus stood beside her, quietly proud, knowing that their cooperation had saved countless lives. Later, as the ceremony ended, Lysera and Marcus walked through the palace gardens. The twin suns had set, and the sky was painted in shades of violet and gold. Lysera spoke softly. "I was wrong about humans. I judged too quickly, trusted too little. You have changed my mind." Marcus looked at her, his expression calm. "It is not only humans who have learned today. We have both learned that trust and cooperation can overcome fear and prejudice. We can achieve more together than apart." Lysera smiled faintly. "Perhaps together we can protect Xyphera from anything that comes?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, Princess, and we will." As they walked through the gardens, Lysera felt a sense of hope she had not experienced in years. The city was safe, the people were inspired, and one human had proven that courage, intelligence, and integrity could bridge worlds. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future where humans were not threats, but allies. And in her heart, she knew that Marcus Kane would be at the center of that future, a symbol of trust, honor, and the possibilities of cooperation. The night passed quietly, but in the hearts of both humans and Zypherans, a new understanding had taken root. Trust had been tested by fire, and it had survived. And somewhere deep in the palace, Lysera whispered to herself, "Perhaps this is the beginning of something greater, something that could change the galaxy." The morning after the battle, Zyphera was quiet, almost peaceful. The twin suns rose slowly, casting a warm glow over the crystal spires and floating gardens. The city was alive with movement, but the tension that had filled the air for days was gone. Citizens walked through the streets, inspecting repairs and helping to restore what had been damaged. Princess Lysera stood on her balcony, overlooking the city. Her heart was heavy with reflection, but light with hope. Today was not about war or strategy. It was about rebuilding, understanding, and creating a new future. She had learned much in the past days, about courage, about trust, and about the humans who had proven themselves invaluable. Marcus Kane stood beside her, looking out at the city. His presence had become familiar, comforting even. He had worked tirelessly during the battle, helping to coordinate human and Zypheran efforts. Today, he would continue that work, not with urgency, but with focus on long-term improvement. "Princess," Marcus said, breaking the silence, "the city looks peaceful now, but the threat may not be gone completely. We should work on strengthening defenses and preparing for the future." Lysera nodded. "Yes, Captain Kane, but today we also celebrate what we have achieved together. You and your people have earned the respect of Zyphera. It is time the world knows that humans are not to be feared, but trusted." The first act of celebration took place in the palace courtyard. Humans and Zypherans gathered together, sharing stories of the battle, repairing structures side by side, and offering thanks to those who had risked their lives. Marcus walked among the crowd, observing interactions with a quiet pride. He noticed Zypheran soldiers smiling at human engineers, Zypheran children playing with human children, and elders nodding in approval at the cooperation displayed. Lysera addressed the crowd, her voice carrying across the courtyard. "Today we celebrate not just a victory but a lesson. Trust can be earned. Courage can come from unexpected places, and together humans and Zypherans can achieve more than either could alone. Let this day mark the beginning of a new alliance, one of respect, honor, and friendship." The applause was loud, sincere, and filled with hope. Humans and Zypherans alike felt the weight of her words. It was a turning point, a moment when centuries of prejudice and fear could finally begin to fade. After the ceremony, Lysera and Marcus walked together through the city. The air smelled of blooming flowers, and the glow of repaired energy crystals lit their path. Citizens waved, smiled, and offered thanks. For Marcus, it was a rare moment of quiet pride, a moment that reminded him why humans could and should be trusted. "You have changed things, Marcus," Lysera said softly. "Not just for me, but for my people. They see now that humans are capable of courage, intelligence, and honor, and that is something I never expected to believe." Marcus looked at her, humility in his eyes. "We all learn from each other, Princess. Trust is not given lightly and respect is earned. Today we have done both together." Lysera paused, looking at him carefully. "I once believed humans were dangerous, unpredictable, and selfish, but you are different. You have earned my trust, and that is not easy to do." Marcus smiled faintly. "Thank you, Princess. I hope that trust will grow, not just between us, but between our people." Over the following weeks, humans and Zypherans worked side by side to strengthen the city. Bridges were repaired with new energy stabilizers designed by both species. Defense systems were enhanced using human strategies adapted to Zypheran technology. Training exercises were held, where humans learned Zypheran combat methods, and Zypherans learned human teamwork and improvisation. Lysera observed every detail. She had allowed Marcus to advise her and her council on strategy and city planning. His ideas were practical, innovative, and respectful of Zypheran tradition. Slowly, her people began to see humans not as threats, but as partners. One evening, Lysera invited Marcus to a quiet terrace overlooking the central city plaza. The twin suns had set, leaving a sky full of stars reflected in the floating rivers below. "Marcus," she began, "I have been thinking, trust is fragile and peace is even more so. But we have shown today that cooperation can work. I want this alliance to last, not just for a few weeks, but for generations. Marcus nodded. I agree. Humans and Zypherans can learn much from each other. If we continue to work together, we can protect this world and perhaps even others in the galaxy. Lysera looked at him thoughtfully. You have proven that humans are capable of more than I believed. Courage, intelligence, empathy, these are not traits I expected to find in your people so openly. But you have shown them. You have earned our respect. Marcus smiled softly. I hope we can continue to earn it, not just through words, but through actions every day. Their conversation was interrupted by the laughter of children. Lysera turned to see Zypheran and human children playing together in the plaza below. They ran across floating platforms, climbed small crystal trees, and shared stories. For Lysera, the sight was almost magical, a symbol that the future could be brighter if her people and humans continued to work together. This is what it could be, Lysera whispered. A world where differences are strengths, not divisions. Where courage and trust are shared, not feared. Marcus placed a hand lightly on her shoulder. And it will be, Princess. If we keep working together, there is no limit to what we can achieve. Over the next month, formal alliances were signed. Human diplomats joined Zypheran councils, and joint projects began. Scientific teams collaborated to improve energy systems, medical teams shared knowledge, and training programs prepared both species to respond to future threats. Zypherans began to appreciate human ingenuity, while humans marveled at Zypheran precision and grace. The citizens of Zyphera slowly accepted humans into their lives. Markets once closed to outsiders now welcomed them. Festivals celebrated human and Zypheran cooperation. Children grew up learning the value of understanding, teamwork, and empathy across species. Through it all, Lysera watched Marcus closely. He remained humble, focused, and ever willing to help. She realized that her respect for humans, and for this one human in particular, had grown into something deeper. Not just admiration, but trust, hope, and a belief that together they could face anything. One evening, as the twin suns set behind distant mountains, Lysera and Marcus walked along a quiet path in the palace gardens. The air smelled of blooming lilies, and the floating rivers reflected the colors of the sky. Marcus, Lysera said softly, I want to thank you. You have done more than earn my trust. You have shown my people that humans can be allies, friends, and protectors. You have changed the course of our history. Marcus smiled humbly. It was not just me, Princess. Your people were brave, your leadership strong, and your willingness to see the truth made this possible. We learned from each other, and together we succeeded. Lysera nodded, her heart light with hope. Yes, together. The stars began to appear in the night sky, mirrored by the glowing rivers and crystal spires below. The city was quiet, but alive with possibility. Zyphera had survived, humans had proven themselves, and a new chapter had begun. In the weeks that followed, the alliance strengthened. Trade between human and Zypheran worlds increased. Scientific discoveries were shared, and cultural exchanges brought both species closer. Marcus continued to work closely with Lysera, advising on strategy, technology, and diplomacy. Together, they became symbols of a new era, one where humans and Zypherans could cooperate, trust, and build a brighter future. Lysera often reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From the first meeting, where she had shunned humans, to the battle that tested their courage, to the peaceful days of rebuilding, she had learned that trust, respect, and cooperation were powerful forces. And at the center of it all had been Marcus Kane, a soldier, a thinker, a bridge between worlds. As the city thrived, Lysera whispered to herself one night, perhaps this is the beginning of a galaxy where differences are not feared but celebrated. And perhaps humans can truly be part of it. Marcus, standing beside her, did not speak. He simply nodded, understanding that their actions, their alliance, and their trust had created something far greater than either species could have imagined. Together, human and Zypheran, soldier and princess, stood on the balcony of the palace. Below, the city sparkled like a jewel, alive with energy, hope, and the promise of the future. And for the first time in centuries, Zyphera was truly at peace. Not because there were no threats, but because its people and their allies had learned to face them together. The galaxy was wide, full of challenges, dangers, and wonders. But Zyphera had a new strength: cooperation, understanding, and the courage to trust. And with Marcus Kane at her side, Princess Lysera knew that whatever the future held, they could face it, together.